insurance is a noble career. It's a noble industry. We don't do a good enough job of talking about that.
99.99999% of consumers do not read their insurance contract. Insurance agents from around the world. Hey guys, this is Scott Howell with the Insurance Guys podcast. Hey, let's talk about client experience for just a minute. Guys, we have got to start meeting our clients where they want to be met. Not where you want to be met. Guys, this isn't about you. This is about them. I know we would all love it to be about us, but it's about our clients. We got to start meeting them where they want to be met. I understand some of you want them to come into the office, drink coffee for 45 minutes, whatever. That's just not where we are today, guys. For those people that want that, that's fantastic. Every single year, more and more people want to jump on a mobile app. They want to download their ID cards. They want easy. They want speed. They don't want to come by and drink coffee with you. One of the easiest ways you can do this is through the agency-branded self-service platform, guys. And that is where Glovebox comes in. A carrier-connected, agency-branded tool for your clients. Call today, get a demo with Glovebox, and mention the Insurance Guys podcast to get 20% off the life of your agency-branded CXP. Guys, let's go meet our clients where they want to be met. Easy, speed. Have a great day.
Hey guys, it's Bradley. Every now and then a company comes across my desk that not only blows my mind in what they're able to accomplish, but we implement that particular technology at Portal and it completely changes the way we do business. That's happened a few times with a few different companies, and it happened this year with Ascend. In case you don't know, Ascend saves agents time by simplifying the time-consuming process of collecting payments, premium finance, and paying the carriers without the back-and-forth paperwork, and it's integrated right into a slick checkout experience where customers can pay how they want, credit, debit, ACH, own the customer experience, guys. It's branded to your agency, and they offer a modern checkout experience that your customers want. Ascend will also, and this is a big one for me, automatically pay the provider, the carrier, the MGA for the payables. So it essentially turns agency bill into direct bill. Go to useascend.com/insurance guys. The link should be below on this YouTube video. Check them out. Thanks.
Insurance agents from around the world, welcome to the Insurance Guys podcast, powered by Glovebox. God, I love Glovebox. My name is Scott Howell, your fearless host and leader, insurance agency owner and insurance evangelist for I Protect Insurance and Financial Services, based out of Huntsville, Alabama. And before we get started on today's episode, please help me welcome. He is a 6'3" sophomore from Mobile, Alabama. Parade first team All-American, Rivals 5-star recruit. He is a fantastic insurance agent and a great American. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome the incomparable Mr. Bradley Flowers. How are you, Bradley?
I'm good. You know, it's interesting when we do these podcast marathons. In the beginning, you're so excited to get going and get in there and chop it up.
Right.
And then once we hit kind of the top of the bell curve and we've got a few episodes left, it's like we're almost home. We're almost done.
Well, what's funny, I was just thinking to myself, I've done that opening so many times in the last 2 days that I don't. It's kind of like when you're driving and you just end up at home. Yeah, that's what it felt like right then. I've done it so many times that I didn't even think about it. Yeah. Bradley,
kind of like when you're a kid and you fall asleep on the couch and you teleport to your bed and you don't know how you got there.
Exactly. Yeah. Bradley, give all 250,000 of the insurance agents listening to this right now an update. The last I heard, and I waited to get on this podcast to ask you this.
Okay.
Where are you at with building a new house?
Oh,
I knew we had broken ground. We'd done some things, preliminary work. Where are you at with that now?
We have cleared the land.
Okay, cleared, check.
We
pissed off all the neighbors.
Pissed off all the neighbors, or one of the neighbors. I'm actually going to that church tonight. That's where that thing I've got to go to tonight is.
About right.
Yeah, it's a long story, Brad. We've so I don't know how it works in other places, but in Alabama, because we have all of the hurricane fortification stuff, right. It has to go to engineering, and the plans have to be engineered to hurricane specs and that sort of thing. So where we are now, I would love to give everyone more of an update, but where we are now, we have our plans, our drawings, but they are in engineering. We were told 2 weeks. It has been 9 weeks. To which my lovely bride is very frustrated, and I told her yesterday. I said, "Look, then every step of the process is going to be like this. You just might as well get used to it." So that's basically where we are.
So
Yeah.
you haven't done the thing yet where y'all are going out once or twice a week to review the work that's been done on the house and the foundations in, and they're putting the framers are there framing. Yeah, you're not
but
there.
that's going to probably be an everyday kind of thing because it's within walking distance of where I live now.
Right.
So I'm probably just going to swing by there every day on my way home from work and just see what was accomplished, which is going to piss everybody off. But you know how it goes.
Are you self-performing, and meaning are you hiring your own subs, or are you hiring a GC?
No, we hired a GC.
Okay.
I'd rather pay more money and not have to handle that part of it.
Sure, I understand. Guys, our mission on this podcast never changes. Every week, we are trying desperately to help you agents any way we can. I am very blessed today to have a rock star on here. I say it all the time. Successful people leave breadcrumbs. They leave a resume of success. And the gentleman that I have on this podcast today is no different. He has, throughout his life, left a resume of success. And I want to give him the introduction that he's always deserved. He was born and raised in Palos Park, Illinois, and he currently resides in Homer Glen, Illinois. He is married to the beautiful Courtney, and they have 2 beautiful babies, Evan, aged 8, and Avery, aged 6. And I have a special message for Evan and Avery. You will not care anything about listening to this podcast today, but I will promise you this. It is going to live in perpetuity. One day when you're older, you're going to hear this podcast, and you're going to be so proud of your daddy and what he's accomplished in his life, and you should be. He's a graduate of Loyola University of Chicago with a BBA in finance, and he got his MBA from the University of Notre Dame. I don't know how many Notre Dame graduates we've had on here.
I don't know.
He was a Division I All-American volleyball athlete in college. Again, resume of success, right? Breadcrumbs. In college, and spent a short period of time in Colorado Springs, Colorado, training with the U.S. national team. I have a friend of mine that did that with track. We went to kindergarten together. And here's I like this one. For a short time, he held a PNC producer license. I like that.
It's important.
Absolutely. He has spent over 14 years in the insurance technology space. He went from Shift Technology, a unicorn Insurtech, where he served as head of Americas and led GTM for North, Central, and South American markets. We want to talk about that. I want to talk about that today. Prior to that, he worked as VP of Sales and Marketing for Insursoft. I remember them. And head of sales at Hearsay Systems. Today, he leads the business development team and strategic partnerships effort at Openly. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my profound honor today to introduce to you first-time guest on the IGP, Mr. Brad Stoub. How are you, Brad?
Doing well, thank you, and thanks for having me.
Man, you talk about a legacy and a resume of success. Let's just stop right now. The effort, the work, the time commitment. First of all, I want to thank your parents, because I know somebody somewhere pushed you through this volleyball thing. We're big
I love playing volleyball.
Volleyball at Huntsville High School, where I'm at, is a full-time job. My son is a baseball player at Huntsville High School. They've got 2 or 3 pitchers in the major leagues. Every week a kid's committing to a different school. The time commitment for both parents and kid that's playing that sport is unbelievable. So thanks, Mom and Dad, for getting Brad to that point, because I know it was a lot. So talk to us a little bit about being a Division I athlete and All-American in volleyball. I want to hear about this.
So interestingly enough, I was a walk-on at Loyola, and I had the opportunity at a coach that was pushed me a lot, and I had a lot of good mentors in that program. I think the key is the only way I was able to honestly become an All-American is by my team. We had an amazing team, right? And I was surrounded by a lot of talented athletes, and without them, it wouldn't have been possible. So mostly a function of them, and we worked hard together, and we played hard together.
I understand
as well.
I understand. Get in my DeLorean with me, Brad. I want to go back in time. You have achieved a lot in the Insurtech space and in the insurance industry. I'm wildly interested, based on your experience and where you sit today in the position you're at with Openly, in a lot of different things relative to that. But before we get to that, take us back in time and just get in my DeLorean and talk a little bit about how you got started in the industry and just kind of bring us up to today.
Yeah. Like most things in life, I had a former boss of mine who was one of my mentors who had a friend. And in fact, what I don't have on that list of resume is that I joined a startup that was not in the space, and we ultimately were not successful. So I was out looking for something new and wanted to choose a path where there would be an opportunity for a younger individual who is sort of driven. And I came on the insurance space, and I thought, wow, like, requires a ton of innovation, and there's it's a big enough opportunity in landscape to where you can go and solve things and grow a career, and just slow and behind at the time. And so I'm like, okay, we'll give it 5 years, join this industry. And in 5 years, it's going to take off and so forth. I think we're finally there now, 14 years later, where you finally have the technology catching up. You finally have the investment capital from the outside coming into the space. What the unintended consequence of joining this industry, and what I didn't realize at the time, though, is how incredibly great an industry it is. And you don't realize the impact that you can have on people's lives being involved in this industry. So that's something that I'll likely probably never leave this industry. Just a lot of really good people, and the fundamental products that are offered are good. They protect people, they protect people's lives, and it's sort of a beautiful thing.
It's something we don't talk about enough, Brad. And I said this we did some kind of content the other day. Insurance is a noble career. It's a noble industry, and we don't do a good enough job of talking about that. I mean, you have a house fire. The only person you want to talk to, other than your friends or family, is the insurance guy or gal who comes to bring you a check. It's the only 100%. We make people whole during those situations.
Correct. All the time. It happens where it's the most stark is the hurricane that just hit down in Florida in Fort Myers.
Yeah.
Louisiana, the wildfires out west. I don't think the general public fully understands that if it wasn't for insurance, there would be a lot of communities that you go into where you can see the revitalization and the rebuild has happened. I've seen it in Alabama, across places like Tuscaloosa, where that enormous tornado, which it comes right down University Boulevard, which was a heavily populated area. Well, you go through there today, everything's brand new. Every house is brand new. Every apartment looks brand new. Well, the reason they look brand new is they all got replaced and paid for through insurance April 27th, 2011. And you can see that all across the country. You'll see that in the next 3 years in Fort Myers, Florida. That place will look almost brand new, and you go, insurance did that. And if it had not been for insurance, those places would be ghost towns. Those areas, you could probably still see the tornado track because people just wouldn't have the money to rebuild that $750,000 house or that apartment complex or whatever. So I think it's lost on a lot of people. And Bradley and I, one of our triggers is when people on social media start talking about what a scam insurance is because of what I just said, right? People, You see people talk about, well, insurance is a scam. They didn't pay my claim, blah, 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 blah. Overall, and I'm painting with a big brush, I agree with you that insurance is a noble career, and what we do helps.
Mm-hmm.
It helps the whole country.
Right.
Brad, you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's a beautiful place to be in an industry that helps put people's lives right. And interestingly enough, Scott, what's interesting is that my office at Insursoft, we had an office in Tuscaloosa.
Okay.
And I flew in, I think 2 weeks after that hurricane came in, or sorry, the tornado.
Uh-huh.
And oh my gosh, this is the devastation. It was incredible. And then to see communities building back up,
Mm-hmm.
binding together, and again, protecting people. And you can't replace some of those things, of course,
Sure.
but you can, we're again in a noble industry where you can protect. And unfortunately, the other view I have is like, insurance gets a bad rap from people in general, in the sense that the marketing message from large carriers
Correct.
is price.
Correct.
And I think what's the beauty about what you all do from an advisor perspective is have that conversation with an insured of, hey, what protection do you need?
Mm-hmm.
And what's the right product for you? And it's not always based on price.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another big area where you talk about trigger words too. I'm the same with people like, oh, the industry's so bad. It's like, no, actually it's fundamentally good.
Right.
Well,
Exactly.
you also have a lot of these people on, say, TikTok, that they're trying to make a video to get views. They're trying to make a video that jostles you.
Correct.
So that it gets your attention and you comment, right? There was one I saw last night where a guy, it was an injury attorney, and he was talking about it was one of these blood-sucking injury attorneys.
Right.
And he was talking about the 3 best insurance companies. And he gave 3 companies and 3 reasons. And he was talking about auto insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And he said USAA, Travelers, and Safeco.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you have to consider he's an injury attorney. So he's going to name the 3 that are the easiest to bow down to injury attorneys. Right. Let's be honest. But the USAA reason he talked about claims. But then the 2 reasons he gave for Safeco and Travelers is that they offer multiple products and they bundle. And I'm like, this dude doesn't know what he's talking about. He's just making this video for views. So you have to consider that when these idiots get on social media and say, insurance is a scam. Well, A, you're making that video for views. And B, you probably somewhere along the way didn't do something right as the customer of that insurance company to cause that claim not to be paid. Correct. Let's just be honest. You withheld something, or you were so price conscious that you cut corners and caused a situation where something wasn't paid.
And I will say this about consumers. 99.99999% of consumers do not read their insurance contract.
Mm-mm.
And in their mind, it's kind of like full, the old thing about what is full coverage, right? Yeah. Everybody thinks full coverage means whatever happens to me, if I'm in a car, it's going to be paid for. And I think same with homeowners insurance. I've been here. How many thousands of times have we as agents heard the old line, I've been paying my premiums for the past 10 years. I need a new roof. Get me a new roof. They don't understand the insurance contract. They haven't read their contract. They don't understand. I would say the biggest fallacy of the consumer is I have a lot of clients that seem to think their homeowner's insurance policy is a maintenance program for their house.
Yeah.
And, when did the loss occur? Well, hell, it doesn't matter. I've been paying my insurance premiums, and I need a new roof, or I need a new this, or I need a new that. Mm-hmm. That is not the way this works, guys. It's just not. That's not the insurance contract. You have to have a direct physical loss to occur in order for that contract to kick in. It's not just 15 years old, need a new roof, Scott, give me a new roof.
Mm-hmm.
I see that a lot. So I think it's kind of a blend of everything Bradley and I just mentioned. I think there's a lot of things there. But, Brad, I want to talk to you today about a lot of things, but let's talk, let's go back, because you said was with Insursoft in Tuscaloosa. You were there 2 weeks before the tornadoes hit. I don't think we've quite gotten up to Openly yet. I'll let you continue.
Yeah, no, yeah. So I joined. So I was wanted to get in this industry. Landed my former boss and mentor introduced me to the CEO at the time of Insursoft, and joined them. Ended up running sales and marketing for them, and that was core systems. So think of like policy billing, claim systems for insurance companies. Learned a ton in that role. And spent a lot of time with a lot of different carriers, which is great learnings in that process. And then I joined a company. I wanted to expand the wings a little bit and join a startup. I wanted to get into the startup world, and so I joined a company called Hearsay Systems, based out of San
Good old
Francisco,
Hearsay
California.
Social.
Yeah.
Hearsay Social, that's right. So many agents that were maybe captives before know Hearsay Social very well.
What happened to Hearsay Social? I'm just asking. I don't
around,
know.
I think, right?
They're still around for sure.
Okay.
Yep.
It's a good product
Yeah. And they expanded. They have, I don't know all the products they have now, but at the time they had social, they had websites, and then texting as well for captives. So that was great. That was a very fast growing company. And I ended up running.
They timed it just right.
It was right. It was the right time.
It was perfect timing. Yes.
Yeah. And then wanted to do my own thing. Sort of when I say my own thing, it was build from the ground up.
Right.
And so I joined a company out of Paris, France called Shift Technology. Wow. And we did that. And
wait, Shift Technology, what is that?
That's not there's a Shift Technology, which is like a car type steering platform. Not that. We were claims automation and fraud detection for the insurance carrier space. Yeah. Grew that a ton. Ended up being, before I left, we ended up raising a bunch of money and had unicorn status, which was pretty cool. And I got the call from a recruiter for Openly. And I'd always had this thing in the back of my mind when I was at Shift of like distribution, disruption, and working with agents and agencies and what that might look like. It was always intriguing to me because I always enjoyed time in the field and working with my customers at Hearsay. And so I got the call. I'm like, why are they calling me? Sort of like, this is interesting. And then had conversations with leadership at Openly, and really, I've been, that's my fifth startup. And the leadership team that is at Openly is outstanding, really solid, very mature, very sophisticated leaders. And then just was intrigued by the go-to-market motion, in which we're trying to sort of solve it at Openly, and kept having conversations, was more intrigued, and I'm very, very happy I'm here and glad I get to spend time with all the agents on the call.
I'll talk a little bit about what your role is at Openly, because I know there's people wondering that right now.
Sure.
Yeah, so I run effectively distribution. So my team, we have a team of agency success managers who manage relationships with agency partners. We have an acquisition team that looks, sort of dial for dollars, calls prospective agency partners, and we get agencies appointed, do some due diligence in that process, of course, making sure we're appointing the right agency partners. So yeah, basically running distribution with our agency force.
So I had an interesting situation happen last week. I'm going to tell you about this, Brad. I find this comical. So we write a lot of Openly in my agency. You're welcome, by the way.
Thank you, sir.
we write a lot of Openly, and we wrote our first celebrity client last week, moving from Los Angeles to another state. There was a referral partner relationship with somebody, where there was another agent involved that also quoted Openly.
You
And
wrote Jelly Rolls Insurance.
exactly. And so I will say this person that we wrote has been on a number of episodes of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So that's pretty cool.
Okay.
But I won't go into the long story here. But so a good friend of mine who's an adjuster is friends with the celebrity couple that are buying this house. And they kind of tasked him to help them like navigate the insurance waters. So what we end up with is a quote from I Protect Insurance from Openly and a quote from this other agency that was about half of what our quote was. And that agent, I saw the quote that they put together from Openly, and my buddy called me, and he said, "Well, I'm just going to call this agent and talk to him because his quote was $1,000 cheaper than ours because it was just not the policy that we'd put together." And he calls the guy, and my friend calls me back, and he says, "Well, Scott, this guy's telling us that he understands the house is underinsured by about $1 million, but the Openly policy coverage A will cover you up to $5 million in coverage A." And I said, "Darren, let me ask you a question. You seem like a pretty smart guy. Do you really believe that Openly is stupid enough to let all these agents out there writing Openly just underinsure every house that they insure because there's $5 million in coverage A? Or do you think they might send an inspector out there who is then going to turn right back around and revalue that underinsured, and then Openly is going to send them a bill for about double what they paid at closing? Which one of those two do you think is going to happen?" And he was like, "Oh, hold on." And 30 minutes later, they took our policy out and went with us. So I'm just telling you that story because I found it kind of humorous that this kid was trying to, he was admitting what he had done, but then using that $5 million coverage as part of the contract as a way to underinsure somebody. And you and I both know that that's not how that works, right?
That's right. And we have, interestingly enough, systems in place to validate
Correct.
Imagine
such
that.
instances of manipulation. But
Yeah.
yeah. So
that was a good policy to get, though. I'm proud to have those people on board with us, and the Openly product is so easy to quote. I like it so much because your client, Brad, is my client. I want the higher value home. I want the professional. I want the person that has 3 or 4 vehicles and a $750,000 to $1.5 million home and doesn't have time every month to pour over their insurance. Right? They trust that. I think the Openly client is probably more geared for a risk advisor and somebody to really lean on as my partner in insurance rather than the guy that runs in and wants a non-standard auto policy so you can go get a car tag, right? That's not who we want to write in our agency. So I really like the Openly product, and we sell a lot of it. We sure do.
again, thank you. Yeah, thank you to all the agents listening for the partnership.
Talk a little bit about the reinsurance market that we're dealing with right now, and kind of what you guys, how that's been for you guys, what you guys are doing to navigate those waters, and kind of what the future is for Openly in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, we know it was the hardest reinsurance market in 75 something years or something like that. And for the Insurtech space, it's in particularly difficult in the sense that you have some that haven't been so successful and have not so great of combined ratios, and
Right.
that hurts by association. But one of the things that I think, again, from a leadership standpoint, and I don't want to speak out of turn for my colleagues in product and our reinsurance lead, but we've done a really good job of making sure the right controls are in place to where we are writing the right policies and that we are having the correct product stance. And that's, I think, an area that the space is realizing more and more now, in Insurtech space from a carrier standpoint, just Insurtech space in general, is that you need product expertise. Like you can't just go out and say, oh, we're going to solve everything with technology, because that's one piece of the component in capability. You need to build really slick technology, but it's more of a function to solve the insurance product challenge, which is how do you become a profitable organization to have long-term sustainability and are able to offer additional products in the future, and be able to do that again in a sustainable, competitive advantage way. And so back on your question on the reinsurance side, it's a very tough market overall, but what we've been able to prove is that we do have a lot better than average market statistics that would give us a little bit of an advantage there. Overall, though, the global reinsurance market is it's like the hardest market it's been in 75 years. So, it's not easy. And what we've done is hired somebody specifically focused in this area for us that comes from the space. He's been in the industry for 15 plus years. And he's helping us navigate and connect with the right folks and make sure we have the right systems and brokers in place as well to help us with that.
Well, in the I don't want to say old school because it wasn't that long ago, but the 2016, 2017, 2018 Insurtech was, hey, the front end is going to be really slick, right? It's going to be really quick and easy to get a quote. And then the back end, we're going to operate like a traditional insurance company. And I'm not speaking about openly, but then we're also just going to undercut everybody price-wise. That way we can write a bunch of business and put ourselves in a really bad spot with our reinsurers. Right. I remember there was an Insurtech I was dealing with that was exactly that. And I sent them an email and asked if they could send me my commission statement in a CSV file. And they're like, oh, we don't have the ability to do that. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like your technology, well, we can't do that. And so I think it's important to have all three of those sides, right? Good front end, good back end, and then manage the actual insurance side of things correctly. Because if you can't write profitable business, it doesn't matter how quick and easy you do it. It's not going to work out. And that's what I think has happened with this reinsurance market is expose some of those players who are not necessarily doing it the right way.
I agree. Yeah.
Well, hello there. Excuse me for interrupting your regularly scheduled podcast, but I'm here today to get you out of aggregator and cluster jail. This may be the most important message I've ever delivered on the Insurance Guys podcast. Guys, are you a member of a cluster or an aggregator? Does your contract have exit fees, termination payments, buyback provisions? It's time to get your freedom back and do what we did here at I Protect Insurance. Join the AC, the future of aggregators and clusters in our industry. Best decision we've ever made, guys. Best decision we've ever made. No entry fees, small $200 a month membership fee, over 50 plus carriers for direct appointments. And by the way, adding new ones coming on board with them each and every month. You keep 100% of your commissions and profit sharing every year. Guys, each of the last 2 years, we have made in our agency over $100,000 in profit sharing. And wait, here's the best part. This is the part I'm probably the most passionate about. No termination or exit fees. You give the AC 60 days notice and you're free. You get direct appointments wherever you want. There's no buyback provisions, no exit clauses. Guys, if you're a member of another aggregator and you have termination fees, buyback provisions, exit clauses, every single policy you write, you're digging that hole just a little bit deeper. And one day you're not going to be able to get out of it. It's going to be too much. You're going to be taking out a second mortgage on your home just to try to get out of an aggregator or cluster group. Unbelievable. Go to acfree.org. That's acfree.org and register. Find out why over 850 agencies and $3 billion in premium have chosen the AC. But wait, guys, there's more. Heck, this may be the best part. Mention the Insurance Guys podcast when you talk to these guys, and you get 6 months. That's 6 months of no membership fee just by mentioning the Insurance Guys podcast.
From a distribution standpoint, what are some things you guys are working on? Let's talk about that a little bit, since that's more kind of your arena.
Yeah, so from a distribution standpoint, we continue to double down and triple down. Our only market is through the insurance agent, right? That is where we will distribute. We're not going to go direct. We again, you've heard Ty, I think he was on your podcast talking about why we do that.
Yep.
And that will continue to be our long-term play. And as such, we continue to invest in our agency partners. So we continue to make investments in the portal experience, making it easy for you all to do business. Like we just released a capability where you can see your renewals right in front of you, which I know seems like pretty basic, but it's sort of a beautiful view that no other carrier is doing today, or no other company is doing in the market today, where you can see term over term rate to allow you to look at what's upcoming and allow you to get in front of those customers. Because it is a crazy market from an inflation standpoint as well, as we know. Like the market is overall, it's just a crazy time to be in the space. But yeah, so we continue to make investments in the portal experience, making sure it's easy. And then from an infrastructure perspective, we're spending a lot of time building more, I'll call it scalable guts that allow us to do some more interesting things. And that's about the extent I'll leave it right now.
Come on, Brad.
Interesting things with some of our strategic partners, to where it'll make it more efficient for them to interact with us through different ways. So
Cool.
I'll leave it there for right now. But
Now this won't air till January, by the way. So
Yeah.
keep that in mind.
think of when.
I don't want you to say something that you're not supposed to say.
Hey, Brad, I need your help.
Yeah.
Here's where I need you to help me. So Bradley and I need to get Oprah Winfrey rich, because I want a helicopter and Bradley wants a private island in the Caribbean. And you've been with all of these Insurtechs over the years. You've got a good flavor from an industry perspective of what's out there. I could probably throw out just about every Insurtech's name out there, and you could give me an elevator pitch on who they are.
I'll give you a better one.
Huh.
I spoke at an event that he was at, and I gave an example of a conversation I had with an Insurtech CEO and redacted the name. And when I got off stage, he said, "Was it blah, blah, blah?" And he was exactly right. You remember that?
I do. Yeah.
So here's my question. Bradley, you need to listen to this, because you're going to be the one to come up with this for me. Where's the white space at the Insurtech part of this? Where's the white space? What area seems to be the most neglected in the Insurtech space? Now, when I think about it, there's a lot of Insurtechs that are doing the whole, create a policy and sell the policy either online direct or through the agency force. There seems to be a lot of helping agents with automation, marketing, branding, that kind of stuff, social media stuff. There are a lot of AMS systems, a lot of CRM systems, but what's the white space, guys? What do you think, Bradley? Bradley's over here smiling like a Cheshire cat.
Risks with hair on them, whether it be catastrophic areas. My big joke that I used to tell Brad is, "Hey, we're an Insurtech. We're going to change the insurance industry." Okay, what are you selling? "We're going to sell renters insurance in Ohio." You're not solving any problem selling renters insurance in Ohio.
Right. They got it covered, guys.
I think it's more difficult risks, whether it be coastal homeowners or, California homeowners or Massachusetts, areas that are a little bit more difficult. And props to Openly for writing coastal business, right? But I think there's an opportunity there. I think there's an opportunity in auto insurance. There's one Insurtech auto carrier, two Insurtech auto carriers that I can think of. I think both of them are doing a fair job, but not really grabbing any market share. And then the third area I think that there's an opportunity is in middle market, larger commercial.
Okay.
I think there's enough spread there that if somebody is willing to tackle that, they can create opportunity. That's what I see. And then I'll add a fourth in there. Embedded insurance is still going to be a thing, right? We slowed down talking about it because I think just this economy is kind of preventing that. But I think more solutions that allow agents to use embedded insurance to their advantage. Yeah. That's what I see. But I'm interested to hear what Brad has to say.
Go ahead, Brad.
Yeah, I'm going to take a little bit of a different sort of lens. I just listened to the Freakonomics podcast, not to index on that, given that I'm on a podcast, and Michael Lewis was interviewed talking about Moneyball. Mm-hmm. And he talks about the statistics behind baseball and how that fundamentally changed the game. So my lens is that the company or solutions that will leverage data in the most efficient way will win. And I was having a very broad brushstroke of a concept on a construct there. But that can be across distribution, that can be across risk understanding, that can be literally across all those dynamics. And part of that is leveraging the next wave of computational computing that will allow that to become very efficient. So quantum computing is just in the infancy. I hate buzzwords, but like somebody that can tap into that lever and then having the data and access to data to make those decisions will become very, very unique and valuable. And then the second part is, Bradley, you talked about embedded insurance. I think that is certainly an area of growth, but it also has to be like in every sort of aspect, right? So people make buying decisions based upon life events. And that's actually what we did at Hearsay, which was like, at the time, it was social signal for a marriage, a new home, or whatever that might be. And that allowed for the agent or advisor to connect with that individual to then offer something that would be valuable because that time was relevant. So if there's a way to sort of marry that with the like life events or prescriptive life event piece, and then allowing for the individual to connect with them, and more specifically, because I'm being a little bit vague here, but is data can provide the insights. In your world, in my opinion, the human element is equally important. So I call it the human in the loop component, right? Mm-hmm. So like you can create a lot of models, you can create all this great information from data, but how do you give it to people to then create that connection that ultimately leads to more opportunities in selling it, right? From new lines of business or whatever that might be. To different products and so forth. So, and that includes in like everything that we do. So on my team, the agency success team, we want to leverage data to say, when should we connect with this agent? Like, we don't want to be bothering agents all the time with stuff that's not relevant or that can't help their business. So like, how do we better use those insights about the agency or about their business to then connect with them at the right points that make sense to drive the relationship forward.
So the exact opposite of what some of the other carriers do, which is just send me a calendar invite and expect me to show up to it.
That's not ideal, I would say.
I would agree. No, that's awesome. And I'll say this too about embedded insurance. The thing I like about embedded insurance is all of us know, insurance is not the thing, right? Nobody wakes up in the morning and is excited to buy an insurance policy. Okay. Insurance is the thing that gets you to the thing. It's the gateway that gets you to that big purchase, right? You want to buy a house, one of the last things you have to do before you buy that house is buy insurance. What I love about embedded insurance is it is the physical embodiment of that.
Right.
It's that, right? It's embedded in the process. You have to do this to get to this. Where I think embedded insurance operations can win and where they're going to lose is the back end. Mm-hmm. Right. It's all great if you make it super easy to buy and it's a part of the process.
Right.
But what's going to happen when you have that claim? You're going to want to
You have
talk
no
to
idea
Scott.
who to call.
Exactly.
You have no idea what to do.
So I think if you can pair the embedded technology with an agency, and you give that agent the ability to go work those deals and embed their technology or their products or their agency in XYZ whatever, and then you have the slick front end that it's easy for them to purchase. They don't have to worry about a thing, but you pair that with the advice, knowledge, and support from an agency. That's where I think you can really win with embedded.
And I think the way to do that, and this was one of the things that State Farm does extremely well from their direct side. And we talked about this yesterday over lunch because I've been thinking a lot about this lately. One of the things that State Farm does really well is if you go direct through State Farm, they are going to put that person in an agent's office, right? And with that, another thing they do really well, if a consumer gets on statefarm.com and starts a quote but doesn't finish it, they send that quote information to the local agency in that zip code that whoever they choose, and that agent can then pick that ball up and run with it. And I think that's where embedded insurance could shine. Is I got 672 documents here I've signed for my mortgage home closing, and part of that maybe is embedded insurance. But 5 days later, you're getting a phone call from a local agent to say, "Hey, as part of your closing, you got embedded insurance on your house. We just want to make sure you understand if something ever happens, we're your agency."
Right.
And maybe you send them some marketing material and refrigerator magnet or something that they can look at and go, okay, we got a claim now. I know who to call.
Right.
And that's where the embedded insurance could really shine, is if you picked up that back end that you were talking about, because that's what they're going to miss.
Right.
Everybody's so focused on, we're going to cut the agent out. We're going to do embedded insurance. Okay, what you going to do on the back end? Because they have no clue who to call or what to do.
Right.
That's going to happen.
But and I do agree, though, Brad, from a data standpoint. I mean, it does feel like there's been a lot of people that have missed the mark on using that data correctly. So I do see that from a 30,000-foot view. The first company that really takes advantage of that is going to do well. There's a huge opportunity there for that.
Brad, I got to go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. On the key on the embedded though is that you have to have choice there too, because if it's just a single solution, that's where the agent and advisor has the ability to connect and say, listen, all things are not created equal, right? The quote on this is, the coverage is this, and so that's I think where, again, the human in the loop aspect of, yes, very convenient at the point of purchase, but then the conversation afterwards of, here are the coverages, here's why this is different, here's the price, and then you close that business. But they don't have to think about it in the process, more of just like the consumer doesn't have to think about quoting it. They just say like, all right, I'm going to choose the best one when I'm consulted with my advisor.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, it only wins. To me, embedded doesn't work if it's just a one carrier option. It's got to be multiple.
Because every carrier is in the cycle of insurance, correct? And so your embedded option, if it's only one carrier at the time of purchase, maybe they've got the best rate in your particular area. 2 or 3 years later, they decide they want to shrink. So now that $1,500 you paid at your closing is $3,500, and you're like, what the hell? This keeps going up. So there's some disjointness going on there, right? I could see that happening. You're correct on that. Hey, Brad, I got a question for you. Short-term to mid-term future for Insurtechs. And I know this is painting with a pretty broad brush, but you've been in this world for a long time. Where do you see over the next 5 years Insurtechs going? And we may have already covered some of this ground.
Yeah, and so I sort of bifurcate this into two areas, which is the insurance technology type companies, and then the technology companies that enable the whole work stream, whether that's agency channel or carrier channel and so forth. So I have a view. There is a ton of capital, and this is not my view. This is more of like just an understanding of the market. There's a ton of capital that's sitting on the sidelines right now, ready to go to work and invested overall. This is the venture capital space in general. And I think after you see some normalization from an inflation standpoint and so forth, from a macro sense, you're going to see that money start to flow back into our space.
Okay.
So you saw like a contraction a little bit here for a little bit, but I think you're going to see more money flowing back into space just as a function of there's a ton of capital ready to get put to work.
Right.
You're just waiting for the right time. In the insurance technology space, sort of where we play at Openly, it is, and maybe this is a self-centered viewpoint, but is very much the company that understands insurance and the technology piece. You have to have both to be successful. And I think we are very well leveraged and positioned to do that. And we have very clear goals and ambitions of being the number one carrier distributed through the independent agent channel, or the agency channel. So I think that'll be key. And then longer term, and you're already starting to see the second wave of insurance technology companies being more focused on the insurance expertise. In fact, you see some of the companies, and I won't name names, but bringing in folks from the industry now as a way to try to catch up a little bit, because you need that context or that experience. And then on the sort of technology providers to agencies or to carriers, again, you're going to see like very concentrated first use cases deployed. And the only way you expand in this space is you are successful. So you solve one problem and then you go to the next one, and then you solve that and you're successful. And then you solve and those companies that can do that over and over again will win in the long term. So that's sort of my macro view of what's going to happen in the space.
I thought y'all did a really good job. We interviewed, I believe, the CEO of Openly, did we not?
Yeah.
Ty. And one of the things he mentioned is when he started Openly, founded Openly, his business partner came from the agency side of insurance.
Exactly.
And if there's one thing I could tell to anybody out there that's looking to start an Insurtech relative to agencies and going in that direction, is you have got to bring in a partner that has that context and that years of experience in the insurance space to kind of help you navigate those waters and stop you before you did make a big mistake. Because if you don't have that person as a partner or in some way employed by your Insurtech, there may not be anybody there to stop you from running into the wall. And you see that happen quite frequently. And I think that was one of the areas that y'all did a great job of, was marrying technology with an agency, a blend of an agency perspective. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I would even take it a step further. And Matt our co-founder, is a brilliant guy. He started an agency and yes, has that. And then Ty had the product experience, having run product at a large carrier. And one of the things that we had our first agency council in October, and I was just asking questions to an agency partner at one of the dinners, and he stopped and he's like, I need to think of, I asked him a question, I don't know I forgot even what the question was, but he stopped. He's like, I'm just so baffled right now. I don't get those questions from other companies. They don't even ask the question, let alone, and that's where I think we, as in my team and from a broader Openly perspective, we find it incredibly valuable to get insights from the field. And we're not going to act on everything. We can't act on everything, but even asking the question of what do you think about this is a very basic first step that we want to continue to make a continued part of our practice to get better and better over time. So it's sort of unfortunate a little bit, I would say, that you're our customer, right? Ultimately, I always view this from a strategy perspective. You are our customer. You work with end consumers to sell our product. You are our customer. If we're not serving you right, if we're not understanding your needs, we're never going to be successful.
And that's where a lot of carriers miss the mark. They don't have that perspective. When you approach things from that angle, it's much better than approaching it from the opposite, which is what a lot of carriers, I feel, they look at the customer as their customer, and we're just like a necessary evil.
But the great news is Scott has a solution. So here we go, guys. For every major carrier out there, Ty, I hope you're listening to this. Here's what I'm going to offer. Let all of your upper management, as either part of their hiring process or at any time, and I can get any major carrier a list of agencies across the country to choose from, we will allow you to come in and work in our agency for 1 week.
And then work it openly for another week.
And that way you can gain the perspective of what it's like to be on that side of the aisle as you're working with this, in a managerial role with a major carrier. I think that's a brilliant idea. Mm-hmm. I think that's wonderful. I think we need to start doing that. Mm-hmm. Upper management from every carrier gets to come in and work at iProtect for 1 week.
I wholeheartedly agree. And to be honest, I think about this a lot. You are running a business where you're managing relationship with 10, 12 carrier partners.
Correct.
You are managing payroll. You are trying to sell business. You are working like your HR, your everything. It's a hard job. Like it is you're underrepresented from a small business owner perspective of how much you have to do to be successful. Mm-hmm. And the more we can make it easier to do business with you and to help you protect your customers, that's our end goal in giving consumers choice. So kudos to all the agents on this call. Like it is not an easy job to run a business, run a family, manage your insureds and all that fun stuff. So and kudos to all agents on this.
And not to mention the fact, the bigger you get, and Bradley and I just did a podcast on this a couple of weeks ago, where he talked about reaching this point, and I'm at that point as well, where you're working on the business instead of in the business, because when every agent starts from less than scratch, you're working in the business, and then over the years you end up hiring people and you grow and you get more of a corporate structure and you end up working on the business. But I'm telling you, you talk about school of hard knocks, getting to come into an agency and shadow an account manager for 1 day, a salesperson for another day, a claims manager for 1 day, the agency owner for 1 day. I mean, you could take 5 days, 8-hour days, man. You could go back to the carrier that you represent and have a pretty good baseline knowledge of, I know what these people do every day now. I got it. I think that's a brilliant idea. Brad, I want you to leave these agents with something relative to Openly 2023. There are going to be a couple of agents whose ears probably perk up if you know what states that you may not be in now. Maybe y'all are done with that, but what states you might be opening up to in 2023, and kind of what the overall plan is for Openly in 2023. We'll leave it. And
I posted this on my story and already have agents asking when this is coming out. So,
wow. Okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah. Perfect. So from and hopefully I don't get in too much trouble for this, but we have.
And by the way, guys, everybody listening, this is an approximation. He's not going to say like January 15th we're coming to blah 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 state. So just know that.
January 15th at 3:30 p.m. No, in all seriousness, we will continue our footprint growth in the U.S. market in 2023. You're going to see we currently have, I think it's end of Q1-ish is Virginia.
Okay.
And we are actively in the process of looking at partners there. And then beyond that, we have, I'm trying to think of the list of a couple small Northeast states as well. And then we have some big ones toward the end of the year, again, East Coast. So if you think of two bigger states within the Northeast, those are likely end of next year-ish. So less new states rolling out for us. given the fact that we're in 21 states right now, and we feel like we're sort of well penetrated throughout the market. We won't, and many of you all know this, Florida and California are off the table for a long
Boo.
Thank-
I was
no, thank
thinking y'all were
God.
going to be in Florida next
No.
year.
As a non-Florida agent, I don't want you in Florida.
I don't even think Citizens wants to be in Florida.
Yeah.
Well, truth be told, so you talked about that. My parents had a total loss in Bonita from that
There you go.
hurricane.
I
So
bet.
we lived the reality of. Luckily, they had some insurance, but
Hey,
yeah.
can we do secret time for real quick? Secret time. Nobody's going to hear this. It's
Okay.
me and you. It's me and you, Brad. Of your 21 states, which one's the worst performing?
Oh.
Ooh. I don't even know if he can say that or not. If you
I
can't,
don't even in terms of what
just
metrics?
overall loss ratio, combined ratio. Like when y'all, because I know somebody there's like top to bottom. Here's our best performing. Somebody's got to know that, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Probably
And I'm just
I
trying
bet
to
Tennessee.
off the top of my
I'm
head.
going to guess Tennessee too. I think Bradley's right. I was going to say Tennessee. I bet
It was
it is.
December of last year where it was a tough. There was
Yeah.
a tough. They had some storms in that area, right?
Well,
So
there you go. We'll say Tennessee. Let's just say Tennessee. Great job, CJ. Way to
CJ.
screw it up. Brad, thank you so much for being on the show. We appreciate you.
Thanks
We love
for
you.
having me. Really enjoyed it.
Hey, you got an open invitation anytime, brother. And let's stay in touch. We never know what the future is going to hold. And when Bradley and I come up with our new Insurtech that's going to cover that white space we talked about earlier, we're gonna angle to have you come in as our CEO and run that thing. So
I don't know if I'm capable of CEO, but we could definitely talk go-to-market strategy for sure.
I understand. Guys, you are listening to the Insurance Guys podcast, and as I end every episode, rewards come from action, not discussion. Get your ass out from behind that desk today. Stop running TPS reports. Stop looking at your damn scorecard bonus. Stop doing a bunch of shit that doesn't matter and go out there and build relationships. Become the mayor of your village. You want every single person where you live to know that you are the insurance guy or girl in their community that you need to get insurance from. Make money for your wife, for your husband, for your kids' college fund, and for your parents that are struggling out there. Let that be your why, and go out there today and live the life that Bradley Flowers, Brad, and myself know that you deserve to live. Write great business for the companies that you represent, and write great business for the agencies that you represent. Bradley Flowers, I love you.
Thanks, man. Thanks, Brad.
Cheers, Dad.
See you guys. Guys, you are listening to the Insurance Guys podcast, and we love each and every one of you. Thank you so much for being a part of our family. And we'll see you back here real soon. Take care.
We're gonna we need to title this episode "Between the Two Brads."
Between the two Brads. Please, dear Lord, do that.